Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we
Good
can
morning,
hear
sir.
you. Good morning.
My video seems to be disabled. Courtney, can y'all turn that on for me?
My video is disabled too as well. I'm not sure if the other panelists are having those challenges.
Yes.
There we are.
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank everyone for coming together this morning. I know we have important business to conduct. Courtney, do we have the ground rules available to put up on the screen? So everyone can see those and we can read them before the meeting begins.
Attempting to pull that up right now.
Okay, I guess she's having difficulty posting those. Okay, and so I'm going to read our ground rules, and there they are on the screen for all of us to see. That's actually our mission statement. So I'll start with that one. This is the mission of the council: to increase independence, self-determination, productivity, integration, and inclusion for Louisianans with developmental disabilities by engaging in advocacy, capacity building, and systems change. Thank you, Courtney. All right, and our ground rules are as follows, and this is for today's meeting and every meeting that we conduct. Members must be recognized by the chair before speaking. Please be respectful of each other's opinions. We break for 10 minutes every 1.5 hours. Discuss council business in a responsible manner. Except as necessary, please restrict the use of electronic communication, such as texting, during the council and committee meetings. Silence or turn off your cell phones. And our mission statement is posted at every meeting. Okay, and then be on time for meetings. No alphabets, that means acronyms. So if we speak with an acronym, let's try to remember to say the phrase outright or the title outright, so the public will be aware and we'll all be fully aware of what we're talking about. Side conversations are to be kept to a minimum, done quietly and restricted to the subject at hand. So those are the ground rules for today's meeting. Now, there's also, today is an important day because we have to have public comment. And although we always welcome public comment, today it's particularly important. And so I want to remind everyone that each speaker will have 3 minutes for their comments. Are there any other announcements I need to make in terms of the meeting for today before we start?
I don't believe so, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Well, before we begin today, I want to make a brief statement. I want everyone to know that your comments and your perspective are always welcome in every meeting and every thing we do. And today was very important because we want to ensure that everyone feels heard and respected in regard to these matters we're discussing today. So today was very important, and I thank everyone for making the time to be here today and to participate and share your opinions and your thoughts. I ask everyone to please be respectful. And it's important to know that this work is very difficult that we are doing today. All our work is important, but it is very important to note that today is particularly important because what we do and the mission we have is not just limited to me or to Hyacinth or to the executive committee. It is all of us. It involves all of us. It's part of the important work we have to do for the community we serve. And we take that, all of us, I speak for the entire council when I say we take that very seriously. And we know our work is important to you. We know our work is important to all those we serve and represent. And we bear that in mind every single day and with every decision we make. And these decisions are not easy. And I have every confidence, even though I was not present on Saturday, I have every confidence in this committee and in every member of it who I served with and my colleagues. Having said that, it's very important to note that the vice chair rightly knows and understands today was necessary to ensure that we have conducted ourselves as we are supposed to do in every upright way. And I commend her for asking for today's meeting and asking us to be here to finish the work that we're here to do. And I'm asking everybody, please be respectful. Please understand that your views are important, you are important, and that these decisions, as tough as they may be, have to be made because the programming we do and the contractors with whom we do it are essential to helping us carry out our mission day to day. And we have been told in no uncertain terms that regardless of all the turmoil and all of the uncertainty that 2020 has brought us as a state, as a community, and certainly as a council, we have to move forward with the business at hand that we are supposed to do federally. And this today is a major part of that work. And so, having said that, I'm going to turn it over to the vice chair to continue to conduct the meeting. And so, Madam Vice Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Courtney, is there a possibility that you can place the agenda
Yes, back on the screen,
back on the
please, Courtney.
screen? Thank you. I'm not sure if we got an opportunity to take roll call today, so I'm going to ask everyone to stay present when I say their name. Mike,
Present.
Mike Billings, Mary Tarver,
Here.
Stephen Nguyen.
Present.
I know that Mr. Chair Randall Brown is present. He spoke. Do we have anyone that's on this panelist that's staff? I don't see. I believe Courtney's here as well, and we have staff that's present. Okay, now we're going to move through the agenda for the sake of time. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes that from the executive committee that took place September 19, 2020? So I need a motion to approve the minutes for September 19, 2020.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from September the 19th, 2020 Executive Committee meeting.
Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, so I need to make a comment regarding that. in the minutes for September 19, 2020. I believe we need to have some discussion. If we look at the last motion that was made to make recommendations for the proposals that were received, I need to entertain a motion to strike that motion that was made, and then entertain another motion so that we can allow public comment for the solicitation of for the recommendations from the proposal.
Excuse me, Hyacinth.
Yes.
So I'm just trying to follow along here. Shouldn't we approve the minutes and then have a motion to address that?
Well, from what I understand, you can reject the minutes and then ask that the minutes be readjusted and introduce your motion, your reason why you want it to be readjusted.
Okay.
So the motion to make the recommendations, that is the motion that we need to address. The recommendations were made without public comment.
Okay, Hyacinth,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we strike the previously passed motion to select the organizations and enter into contractual obligations and readdress that.
Do we have a second to Mike's motion?
I'll second.
Do we have any objections to the motion? Any abstentions to the motion? Any more discussion? Any public comment? Motion carried. So now we need to be,
I'm sorry, Tamisha has her hand raised.
okay. Oh, okay. Okay, one of our council members apparently had their hand raised, and we didn't see that before the motion was carried. We are going to allow for that council member to make that comment because we did not see that her hand was raised in the box prior to the motion being fully carried. So executive committee, let's allow our council member to make a comment. We on board with that? Yes? Are we
Yes.
okay with that? All right. Councilmember Tamisha Sanye wanted to make a comment.
Good morning. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to I guess bring up a serious concern and make a comment about if there was representation of diversity of people of color in the solicitation of proposals. And I also had a question about why is one entity being given two contracts when only one proposal was received?
Thank you for your public comment. Councilperson Tamisha Sonier.
Michelle Guillory and Bambi both have their hands raised.
Michelle, good morning.
Good morning. I would like to express some concerns as a council member regarding this proposed contract. The proposal is with an entity that is out of the state of Louisiana, number one. Number two, we already have an emergency management coalition for the disabled and the aged in Louisiana. The coalition has been in existence since 2005. The DD Council has been a participant in this council in the past. There are several entities within Louisiana who are quasi-governmental and or who have made proposals for this contract, who are also partners of MDAC. So I have serious concerns that we as the DD Council are going outside of the state to someone in another state that does not have the expertise. Number two, it's a duplication of effort for a coalition that's already in existence that does not have funding. And number three, we really do not need to be reinventing the wheel when there are already mechanisms in place. So I have serious concerns about this contract. Could everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I just wasn't sure. It went blank there for a minute.
We did hear you, Councilperson Michelle. Thank you so much for your comments. I believe we have more public comment.
Hi, this is Bambi. First off, I want to thank the executive committee for providing this opportunity for public comment and for the council, my fellow council members. 2020 has been difficult for everyone, and particularly for our council, with loss of a lot of leadership, tremendous loss of leadership. And so I just appreciate this, and certainly appreciate your giving your time to look at all these items and understand how much work is being asked of the staff as well as our council members. So I just wanted to acknowledge you guys. One of the issues that I want to speak about is in regards to the emergency preparedness training, and that Michelle spoke about. MDAC is probably one of the most valuable resources that I have found in my job with the Governor's Office of Disability Affairs, and with Trach Mamas being a leader in that work. As Michelle said, we have a great coalition in our state that's been in effect for 15 years. So I'm always appreciative that I came in 5 years ago and this was already established, and certainly appreciate that we have that mechanism to be able to meet the needs of people who have, really complex needs like most of our DD population has. So I don't want to repeat what Michelle said, but I do. I want to apologize because we were in the middle of so much going on now, and I did not effectively share with the executive committee the information I had in regards to the work of Trach Mamas through their leadership in MDAC. And so I feel like the executive committee did not have maybe information. I know Michelle, who's also a council member, was in the midst of doing that work as well. So I would just like for, first off, apologize for not providing that information to my fellow colleagues, and just hope that you reconsider the important work that Trach Mamas does, which Trach Mamas is led by our partners in policymaking graduates and parents within our state. So just consider those facts as you move forward and make the decision. And thank you guys for giving up your morning and doing this important work.
Thank you, Councilperson Danby, for your comments. Do we have any more comments from the public?
Karanda has her hand raised and Annie Coomer has her hand raised.
Ms. Karhanda?
Great morning, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, and Executive Committee. I would like to thank first Councilmember Ms. Saunier for actually speaking on something that I have said on a number of occasions, which is that our council is failing to implement and address the very much need of our people with developmental and intellectual disabilities that are in minority populations. We don't even have it reflected in the proposals. And yet we are here today to vote on approving proposals and give contracts to entities that have never provided our minority populations with any type of service. It is very disheartening and it is very belittling, and it is a failure to adhere to our federal DD Act when we are supposed to have an environment that is inclusive completely. And it's not being inclusive for all. It is heartening to hear that we are not putting these proposals, we're not putting them in areas for other minority entities to even submit a proposal because they don't know that our DD Council exists. We have Hispanic populations, Arabic Middle Eastern populations, African American populations that do not know that this Developmental Disabilities Council exists. And so I just think that it would be extremely prudent of us to actually, yes, allow these entities. We can solicit the input from the Governor's Office of Disabilities Affairs or our Governor's Disabilities, Inequities, Disparities Task Force to actually help us provide information to other entities that represent our indigenous, Black and brown people so that they can actually receive this information as well. And that is a problem that we have that has been going on too long. And now we are here again facing another situation where I'm again speaking about the importance of including all. Inclusion. We talk about inclusion. Inclusion does not say some. It does not say most. It does not say a few. Inclusion says all. And if we're going to embody and embrace what our federal DD Act say, then that means we have to address the needs of all in our community.
Thank you, Ms. Karhanda, for your comment. Do we have any more public comments?
Yes, Miss Annie Coomer has her hand raised.
No. Ms. Coomer, Ms. Annie Coomer, you have the floor.
Hello? Is it my turn to talk?
Ms. Coomer, you have the floor.
Okay, I'm sorry, blanked out on that. I want to thank everyone for allowing me to speak this morning. Before you accept a or submit a proposal or allow a proposal from Team Dynamics, I would like for it to be public what Elevatus Training's response was to the situation with Team Dynamics.
Is this a comment about the motion that's on the floor, or this is just, it has to be a comment about the motion that's on the floor?
It is a
Sorry, Ms.
comment
Coomer.
about the motion that is on the floor. The
Okay,
motion
just
that is
wanted to
on the
make sure.
floor is to approve the proposals that you all selected. Is that not correct?
The motion on the floor is to remove the existing motion that we had on the floor, the existing motion that we had at the September 19th meeting, and open for discussion for public comment regarding that motion. So I just was asking just to be clear. That's all.
I think this is a public comment applying to that because I'm
Okay,
talking about.
that's fine. It's just, Ms. Coomer, it's just for clarity. That's all. So you have the floor.
Okay, this took up some of my time as well. The issue is we should hear from Elevatus Training's response regarding Team Dynamics proposal. So I would like to have that made public. Also, I have an issue with the Interaction Advisory Group receiving an award because they have a sub-minimum wage for the self-advocate, which is less than 5% of what the trainer receives. They are the lowest paid individual in the group, and it looks like they're being used as a token. So I have an issue with them. And Niagara University had 2 Louisiana recommendations, whereas the Interaction Advisory Group only had recommendations from Alabama. So I have an issue with that. And with the workforce, I would just like to remind everyone that, Beyond Accommodations would be hiring someone with a disability, and we would be joining the chambers and continuing relationships with them. So that is all of my public comments. Thank you for giving me the time.
Any other public comment?
Mr. David Whalen and Jeff Arsenault have their hand raised.
Mr. Whalen and Mr. Arsenault. Mr. Whalen?
Can you hear me?
Yes, you have the floor.
Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Dave Whalen. I'm the program director for the Niagara University Disability Awareness Training Program. Any questions or comments specific to the first responder or the emergency management program, preparedness program, I'm here to answer. Just a note to be made, I'm well aware of the Trach Mamas of Louisiana. One of my intentions would be to work directly with them. I've met them and worked with them through FEMA. We are a recognized program from both FEMA and FEMA Region 2. We work directly with those entities as well as disability advocates. I am open to answer any questions or concerns you have specific to our program. Thank you.
Do we have any more comments on the floor? Public comment?
Jeff Arsenault had his hand raised.
Mr. Arsenault, you have the floor.
Hey, thank you. First, I want to comment on the comment I was made about minority population. I actually do a lot of work with minorities with disabilities, but nobody actually knows what I do daily. I would like to thank all of y'all. I know what y'all do daily, and I appreciate that. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna pat everybody on the back, because I'm not looking for pats on the back. I'm looking for change. Most of y'all know who I am. Before I begin, I want to tell you, I got a phone call from Mr. Chad Jarrell yesterday, requesting me to speak for his staff in New Orleans. And I'm going to do it. My point of saying that is Jeff Arsenault has the relationships. He also has a disability. He has cerebral palsy. And a lot of people don't know about Jeff Arsenault. He lived in South Carolina where he ran a grocery store. I repeat that. Jeff Arsenault had the keys to $1 million store with a $40,000 payroll every week. I managed that. I do understand there are very few people in Louisiana who believe that. Does my resume match what you see on the Zoom call? Absolutely not. That's part of what we do in the disability community. We fight perception. We fight for our lives. I can provide you with 50 names right now from that grocery chain. I would like to voice my frustration over beyond accommodations not being chosen for the employment and sexuality contract. I realize, and I don't expect Jeff to get funded for everything. I do expect to know why we scored so low. However, I would like I'm sorry. Could it be because there's no respect or expectations put on adults with disabilities? Where do we go from here? I asked you what you wanted at 18 years old, and your answer would be a job and a solid living with solid benefits. I'm not looking for a handout. I'm looking to make change. I'm looking for companies to employ people with disabilities. I'm looking for people to, when they see Jeff sitting at the bar eating dinner, they don't think about how cute I am. They look at me and say, I would like to get that cool guy. I would like to get to know him. What's he like? What's it like being disabled? So I know I took up more than 3 minutes, but that's okay. The level of expectations on us has got to be raised. Your mission statement, I live by that. I do want to strongly suggest, and I need to know that everybody on the executive committee knows what transpired with the Team Dynamics contract and why you guys asked for amendments.
Mr. Arsenault, let me first thank you for your public comment and let you know that that is on our agenda to address. And so your time is up, sir. And again, I apologize for that. But your last statement, there is time on the agenda to address that. So when we get to that, sir, we will entertain public comments, okay? Thank you so much. And again, I apologize, but for the sake of time, we're going to need to move to another, give another person an opportunity to make a public comment. Are there any other public comments out there?
Kathy Dwyer and Jessica both have their hands raised.
I believe Ms. Dwyer, you have the floor. Ms. Dwyer, you have the floor.
Hello, can you hear me?
Ms. Dwyer, you have the floor.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You have the
Okay.
floor, ma'am.
Thank you. I wasn't sure. I just want to reiterate some of the comments made about MDAC and Trach Mamas. MDAC has been an integral coalition since Hurricane Katrina. I personally worked with MDAC and Trach Mamas of Louisiana during the 2016 floods when I was working with the Autism Society of Greater New Orleans, and they were very responsive, as well as, you know, being prepared for any emergency situations. I am also working with Trach Mamas now on a personal level in helping Hurricane Laura evacuees, and Trach Mamas has been completely responsive and sensitive to everyone's needs. And agree that we really need to look towards those groups that we already have in place in Louisiana to respond to emergencies and preparedness instead of reinventing the wheel. So I appreciate you giving me some time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dwyer. We have time for one more public comment.
Jessica has her hand raised.
Ms. Michaud, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm Jessica Michaud with Trach Mamas of Louisiana, and I just wanted to publicly state what I put in the chat, that our leadership, including our board, it's just me running Trach Mamas, but we have a great board, and then we are mostly volunteer run. We are diverse, and we include various disabilities, race, religion, and LGBTQ population. And I also wanted to reiterate that the Federal Act of 2000 spells out that the funds cannot duplicate services. Thank you.
Okay, well, that's all for the public comment right now. We had a motion on the floor. It was made by Billings, seconded by Stephen Nguyen. We had discussion. We had public comment. Any objections to the motion? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion carried. Okay, so now we have to move to the agenda. Thank you, Courtney. I know you have that up. Let's get back to the agenda on the screen. Okay, so now we will hear from the response from Team Dynamics. Do we have the representation, a representative from Team Dynamics present that would like to speak today?
Susan Shafet has her hand raised.
Is that a representative from Team Dynamics? Is that who's the representative from Team Dynamics that's going to be speaking today? They have the floor. We can unmute them. Is it Sharon Del Visco?
It's Susan Shafet.
Susan Shafet. Thank you. Ms. Shafet, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Susan Shafet. I am the CEO of Team Dynamics, and I would like to address this. The matter at hand arose from an original use going back several years to training that was done using some material that we felt that we had permission to use based on a training that was attended, but we did not cite the slides. So without the citation, it appeared to be an infraction of intellectual property. We are currently addressing the situation back and forth with Elevatus, and each correspondence that we do with them is being CC'd to the DD Council to Mr. Brenton Andrus. It is our belief that this was an oversight, that they were not cited. We did have permission to use that based on the virtue of attending the class. However, we have removed all of those slides and had done so. They were never used outside of the training with the parents. They were only, I mean, they were used only with the parent training. They were not used with the individual training. It is our belief that we are handling this professionally through our professional liability team who is negotiating with Elevatus, and that due to this action, we have removed everything and rewritten all training that will be used. I'd like to ask Sharon Del Visco to interject with anything in addition to this.
Ms. Del Visco, you have the floor. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Susan is correct. We did have in a draft version of the training that we used materials that were a part of Elevatus training. It was an oversight. It was not intentional. We are in the middle of the negotiation process. I have apologized for the oversight and to the Catherine McLaughlin, who is the owner of Elevatus Training. And at her request, we have deleted all electronic and versions of her slides. And the training was it was about 105 slides. That was a part of the training for the parents and family members and caregivers. And 22 of the slides should have been credited to Elevatus. 10 about, I can't remember exactly, but 10 of the slides that were in question were lists of resource materials. And as Susan stated, we are in the process of having the liability folks work on resolving that situation.
Thank you, Ms. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Del Visco and Ms. Shafet for your response to what was on the agenda regarding team dynamics. Moving through the agenda, it appears as though we've received public comments already. We kind of just dived into that this morning, which I think was really good. It gave people an opportunity to express their comments and concerns. And so with that, it is time for us to be about the business of entertaining motions of whether or not we are going to be recommending these solicited proposals that was accepted at the September 19th meeting. So that's where we are now. So with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to decide, or a motion to recommend the proposals that was submitted for our 2020-21 year, and that we discussed on September 19th. And so I just want to advise the committee that what we're doing right now is either recommending yes, that we recommend, no, we do not recommend, or we recommend with conditions. with conditions. Excuse me. And so I need to entertain a motion to recommend. I need to entertain a motion to recommend proposal O'Neill Communications for video and visual materials. I need a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion on the video and visual materials to recommend O'Neill Communications.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Mary, for making the motion. Thank you, Mike, for seconding it. The motion, any abstentions? Any objections? Any comments regarding the recommendation for O'Neill Communications?
Annie Coomer has her hand raised.
We are entertaining comments at this time for video and visual materials.
I'm sorry, I do not have a comment regarding this issue. It was before, but that topic has already passed, so I do not have a comment regarding this. Sorry about that.
Okay. Hearing none, motion carried. Now I'm entertaining a recommendation, a motion to recommend Interaction Advisory Group for the first responder training. Again, this is just a recommendation.
I make a motion to recommend Interaction Advisory Group.
I'll second.
Mary second. Any objections? Abstentions? Discussion?
Madam Chair,
Here.
I just want to reiterate, I will be abstaining from today's votes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please note that in the record that Mr. Chair has abstained from any and all votes made today. Hearing none, motion carried. I now will entertain a motion to recommend for employment seminars and to recommend O'Neill Communications for employment seminars. Need a motion.
I'll move that we recommend O'Neill Communications for employment seminars.
Any seconds?
I second.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mary. Any abstentions? Any objections?
I'll object.
Okay, Stephen, your objection. Any discussion? Hearing your objection, any discussion, Stephen, you would like for us to have?
I would like for us to take a more of a consideration for beyond accommodations.
So are you recommending or not recommending O'Neill Communications?
I am not recommending O'Neill Communications.
Okay. All right, so we have an objection to recommending O'Neill Communications for the employment seminars. Committee, we need to The recommendation is that what is your recommendation, Stephen?
To consider beyond accommodations for the employment seminars.
Okay, well, there's an objection and there's a recommendation on the floor to reconsider the original recommendation and consider beyond accommodations.
Need a second?
You need a second.
You need a second. I'll second so that it can have comment.
Okay, so it appears as though Mike is seconding the motion that Stephen made regarding reconsideration and recommending beyond accommodations. I see Mary with her hand up.
Yeah, I know one of the questions or one of the notes I had was that the beyond accommodations was not across the state. It didn't include all the regions. And I know that caught my attention. So I guess if there's somebody, I think there's somebody here from beyond accommodations if they want to address that. Is this, I don't know if that's what we do now or not, but I guess that would be my objection to changing any of my thoughts on this one.
So this is where we, Mike, go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead, Hyacinth. I was just gonna see if I can make a comment.
That's okay. And y'all, this is a lot, we're doing a lot of work. And so I want to say I really appreciate y'all hanging in there and pushing this through and giving it a lot of time and thought. So what we have right now is a motion on the floor to reconsider this recommendation of O'Neill Communications and to consider beyond accommodations for this proposal. And so committee, if that is the case, we need to be able to, we have a motion, we have a second. And if we don't have any objections to that motion, it would serve as a substitute to the recommendation of O'Neill Communications. And so if that's where we are, then we are saying that we are recommending to consider beyond accommodations for the employment seminars contract. Mike.
I just have a comment. Myself, and I'm sure the other committee members spent a lot of time reviewing and scoring the proposals. The question was asked if we had reviewed them blind. I can tell you that, yeah, we knew who the proposals were, but when I scored them, I took away all of that when I scored. Otherwise, it would have affected my decisions. So I'm going to stand by my scores, but I just wanted that known on the record that that we look, at least in my actions on it, I looked at them objectively without any personal opinions or relationships with any of the folks that I do know that have submitted proposals. So, and I think that, some people might be a little angry at my scores, but that's what the work that we put in, and to do it service. If not, we would be having questions the other way, that we gave consideration because of relationships or, working with different people and entities in the past. So I just wanted that known.
So we, again, thank you, Mike. And thank you again, committee, for the work. We have this motion on the floor. It appears as though it's been seconded. The motion has been seconded. And so we are, from what I'm hearing, we are considering, the recommendation is to consider beyond accommodations. The motion is to consider beyond accommodations for the, to accept the proposal for the contract. So if there are no objections or abstentions to that motion, if I don't hear any, then.
I object.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mike objects. And Mary, you object as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just was kind of trying to figure out what we're doing, because if I agree with Mike, if we go through all of these all over again, even after hearing the public comment, I agree. We took time and effort, and so yeah, I would have to say that that I would object to beyond accommodations, and I would continue our recommendation on O'Neill Communications.
So with that, I'm willing to entertain a motion that we accept this slate as it is, as it was discussed and voted upon last week. That we accept the recommendations that were made last week. On the contracts that were issued, that the decision that we made last week, that we accept this based on the September 19 meeting. Mike,
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the proposals as previously selected.
A second.
okay, Mike made the motion, Mary second. Any objections? Any abstentions? Any discussion? I'm not sure if I'm able to make a discussion as a chairperson about this, but I do have some serious concerns that these contracts, these proposals is not an adequate representation of people of color. I am very concerned about that. And to be frankly honest with you, it is not a representation of the population that we see. I have serious concerns about that. And although there was a lot of work that was put into it, I also want to note that we have I believe we have 3 proposals out there where we only received 1 contract. So then it brings another question: what type of work do we do to ensure that that information was put out to everyone who had the ability or access to the information to apply for these? So I just want to note that in my discussion, that I'm very concerned about the direction that we're moving towards as it relates to diversity. But with that being said, hearing none, motion carried. So thank you all. I believe that's it for the agenda today. Mr. Chair, do you have a comment? Do you have a comment that you would like to make?
I do actually. I wanted to let you know that your concern, Madam Vice Chair, is noted in our process, and I am committed as your chair, we will review our process and make certain that we are reaching out to more people and more entities in our processes, and make sure we're doing everything we can to be known what we do and how we do it to the community at large, and to try and increase our reach and scope within the disability community among all entities. So I share I note your concern, and I commend all of you for your work today. I would like to remind you before we adjourn to be sure that all public comment has been taken, and before adjournment with regard to this vote. So just bear that in mind. But we definitely are committed to inclusion and diversity. And although your concerns are noted that it wasn't adequately reflected, we will make every effort moving forward to ensure that we do meet those criteria, and we are working for the diversity that we should be representing. That's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, so if we are it appears as though we are over time. We are at the end of our agenda. I hope that we did do our due diligence to make sure that public comments, like Mr. Chair had said, were received regarding these solicitation of proposals. And if there's nothing else to discuss at this point, I really would like to entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Jeff Arsenault has his hand raised.
I believe we have allowed time. I am willing to allow 1 minute because we are well over our time. And because we're well over our time. So if the committee is okay with that, I'm willing to allow 1 minute and that one comment.
Okay. Sharon went over, but real quick, why isn't Randall Brown voting? He's the chair of the DDC. Thank you.
Randall, do you want to speak to that, or do you want me to speak to it?
Would you speak to it, please, ma'am?
Thank you. Mr. Brown was not in attendance at the meeting last week, and therefore the individuals that were in attendance at the meeting last week cast their votes. We had a quorum in order to cast the, for the document and the individuals that were present at the meeting. He was not there last week on September 19th. So we are using those four.
Hyacin.
Yes, Mary.
Hey, I'm seeing these comments about people concerned about this process. This what we've gone through, this process, we've been talking about it. It was sent out, it was put on public, on our website. So for people today, after we've made decisions, to start questioning it is very disheartening. So if we need to look at the process beyond what we've, taken into consideration and these proposals were accepted, if that's a process issue, then we need to talk about that and, moving forward. But for me to be on the executive committee, us go through the process that we already have in place, receive 21 proposals, look over them, and not have anybody have any comments about it or bring it up before now is not, it's not helping us. I mean, everybody's got comments after the fact. Even if we would have taken the comments before we made the vote, we'd already gone through the process of reviewing them. So I guess I just want to say, is it something that we need to look at before the executive committee gets the proposals, that there's something that has to go, that something that we need to do differently to make sure that when we get the proposals, however we do that, that we've already taken into consideration any body's concerns about diversity, about us having the federal DD Act, followed appropriately and all that stuff. Nobody on the executive committee wants to approve or wants to go through a process that everybody questions after the fact. So please help us in advance, not after the fact, and bring up your concerns prior to, not after the fact. And I guess that's my comment today.
Thank you, Mary, for your comment. Okay, so hearing no other comments, I am entertaining a motion to adjourn this meeting today. It is 9:45, folks. Thank you so much for your time. Motion to adjourn is on the floor.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, Stephen motion. I think Mike's gonna second it. I can kind of see it coming out. And Mike second the motion. All right, y'all, hearing no motion carried. You guys have a great weekend. Thank you again for your time. Take care now. Alrighty, bye-bye.